So Survivors is an organization that was formed in response to the need for service. Since our daughter Lily passed away, Stacy and I have found a lot of healing through service. And as I was running one day, it's kind of my new coping deal is exercise. I just had a picture in my brain come these SRVIVRS, kind of like a picture word almost, more of a symbol, as I thought about surrounding ourselves in service and us being the I in the middle. If you surround yourself in service in this loss, that you find like unbelievable healing and a magic place to, like, it just is awesome. And so shortly after that, our Stacy's sister Shannon, she lost her daughter at 19 months old, who was born 364 days after Lily died. So, and she named her after Lily. And so we went to Florida and I shared with them this thing that was on my mind, and they said, we want to do what you've done with Lily. And so from that, it just kind of started to, the idea started to be born.
You know, the word survivors, or as we spell it, it really has a double meaning, you know, because as we talked about, you serve, you know, I'm in the middle and I'm serving others, and I'm also doing service, you know, for loved ones, for friends, but then to survive is really how, you know, I feel as we're doing this service, it's really how we're surviving that grief, you know, that we go through in the loss of our children and our loved ones. Everybody in this life experiences grief at some point. We all lose, and we will all have lost somebody. And so I think it's really an organization that serves everyone. And there's anybody that doesn't need, you know, service, and anybody that's not going to experience loss. And I think for me that's been the biggest part of it, is knowing that what we're trying to do really can touch the lives of anyone, everyone. So
I think one of the coolest gifts that we've been able to bring to survivors is what we call Survivors Share, and that's every Sunday we have somebody sharing their story with grief. And I didn't realize at first how healing it is for people to be able to share their story. And we've had some people that have lost people 10 plus years ago or more, and they come and they share, and they say, that was so good for me. I needed that. And so we provide that platform, and they share valuable things. Like, I learn from them, you know, when they share their story. And so one of the things that sharing is one of the services that we can provide for people, is a platform and an opportunity to give them a voice if they want to. And not everybody needs to, but those who need to, we give them a voice and give them an opportunity to share, and it's awesome.
And I think for me, in that it started, that whole Survivors Share started when Shannon, my sister, lost her daughter, and she put on Facebook asking for prayers. There was a group that was a prayer group, and all non-denominational or whatever, but a lot of followers. And she broadcasted the funeral because people were really interested, kind of followed for the couple days that she was in the hospital. And in the end, 75,000 people watched. Like, it was amazing. And then people wanted to know more, like, about the story. And so Shannon got on and shared her story, like, a couple days after, like, amazing. And then we just, you know, felt strongly because people kept asking, like, how are you doing this? And, you know, like, sharing your story. And so when we were out there in Florida, we were able to get on, and here I was, like, 3 years out of losing my daughter, and here she is, like, maybe a week, you know. And so just the different perspectives, and at first it was just us sharing, but then we went through, like, the stages of grief and everything, but I was so amazed at how much healing that gave me. Like, 3 years later, and I was, like, I'm not one to, like, get in front of the camera and do that all the time, but I felt really pushed to, and, you know, bawling, whatever, but it was just real, and we wanted it to be real. And then the Crapos, they actually found my sister and us online, and that's kind of how we came together, because you guys had lost, I think, a year before.
Yeah. Saw one day online, and I was a part of this prayer group, and I saw how this mother who was about my age. She also had 5 children. She also had lost their youngest daughter right at the same age that I had lost my daughter, and this was about 8 months later. And I started just experiencing this empathy and compassion and mourning with her. And so I reached out to her, and I just introduced myself and just shared the things that we had in common, and just invited her to reach back out to me if she wanted to connect and maybe get support, or we can support each other and kind of go through this journey together. And what was interesting about how Survivors began as well was about a month after our daughter passed away, we felt very strongly that we wanted to do a nonprofit in honor of our daughter, and we wanted to be able to serve those that were grieving. We didn't know what that would look like. We had no idea how to do a nonprofit. We just knew that that was something that we wanted to do. And so when we finally, we did a Zoom call one day with Stacy and Josh and Shannon and Austin and myself, just to meet each other and to discuss how we can support each other. And Josh presented the idea of Survivors, and we all immediately felt this passion and excitement that this was going to be something that we would do all in memory of our children, but also be able to provide others to be able to do it in memory of their lost loved one, whether it was a child or not, and be able to do service all over the world and just make things brighter, especially where so many of us are experiencing grief in our own ways, and we all go through the journey differently. But if we can unite through this service opportunity and just providing a light to the world, then it gives all of us such an amazing healing opportunity through our journey of grief. Survivors provides a community of support for those that have experienced loss and might need someone to connect with to help process their grief. So we provide a lot of support over social media. We provide devotionals on Sunday evenings, different ways for people to connect, and through anybody that reaches out to survivors. And then we also provide service opportunities. So as someone wants to serve in memory of their loved one, they can reach out to us, and we can help them create a service project that will be in memory of their loved one.
Yeah, so we've actually partnered with Bree Edwards here locally. She has Locke's Legacy, and we featured, just awareness of SIDS for her month. And so even, there is a lot of people who do start something, a nonprofit or whatever, and so, but some people aren't up for that. And so we just help them find something in the community that they can, somewhere where they can serve, but also partnering with other nonprofits that are already doing something. I think it just brings such a unity, and because we all know how, it feels, and it's just like this instant bond that's pretty amazing.
Say, not everybody wants to or can tackle a large service project on their own. And so we try to help facilitate people where they're at, whether that is helping them with a larger project or with part of, or helping them to be able to participate in serving others who are doing a project. So I know right now Josh is working on this moving in memory, and I guess I can let him talk about it, but moving in memory, it's the idea that, hey, I want to get out, I want to do something, maybe not something extravagant or large, but I want to do something in memory, whether it's, running a marathon or running a mile, or just walking down the street and back, moving and doing something in memory of your loved ones. People can donate, obviously, and contribute. I know that we've been able to, one of the projects that is kind of near and dear to my heart we had first responders come and try to save the life of our daughter. And oftentimes they don't get the recognition or the love or the support that they deserve. And so what we will do with some of the funds, survivors funds, is to purchase food for them, take that to them. We recently did that with a fire station by our home, and just to show them how much we love and care about them, and to serve the ones that are first responders that come out. So there's lots of different ways, lots of different projects. I think that's what's really unique about Survivors is really there's no, hey, we can or won't do this, or we will or won't do this. It's if you have something that you feel like allows you to serve in memory of that loved one, then we want to support that. Then we want to help with that. We want to help fund it. We want to help, get boots on the ground and people that can support your effort. Kind of like Stacy was saying, if it's a local organization that's already doing something, we want to throw our hat in the ring and help them out too. So it's really a lot of things that kind of goes under that umbrella.
One of the service projects that we did first was called Blankets for Babes, and it was something that one of Stacy's sister, Shannon, wanted to do. One of the sweet things that happened when her daughter passed away in the hospital is they provided a dress and a blanket to wrap her baby in. And she felt like providing those dresses or outfits and blankets for other parents that would become bereaved would help them in that time just like it helped her. So that was one of our first projects, and what was neat for me is that I did it in Indianapolis in honor of my daughter's memory, so I was able to go and donate to our children's hospital. It was probably 100 blankets and outfits and dresses, and so that was received there, but then Stacy was able to do it here in Rapid City. Another family did it, of course Shannon, she did it in Florida, and we had people do it out in Utah. There was just, probably up in Canada, there was many places that you can do this service projects, and we present them online through our social media, and then people can participate as they feel like they want to in memory of their own lost loved one. As well as then they can also reach out to us and say, I want to do something small, and then other people will join and support you in that. Or it can be as big as having a race, or what do you call those? An event in honor of somebody, of your loved one. So that's one of the things that we do as well.
I guess like the holiday, yeah. I think even just in the early part of grief, I could, tell that people weren't sure how to navigate that. But for sure, there was people that would tell me stories or tell me a memory or just give me a hug and still when they tell me, this is what I remember about Lily, like, I love it. That means that you're still remembering her and you haven't forgotten. And so I always say thank you for remembering and thank you for sharing, because that's a gift to us. It really is.
Helping people learn how to navigate grief. I think that's one of our goals. We're learning. We don't proclaim to be experts on it, but there is I think people coming together with a shared experience is a great resource for learning how to navigate, saying, hey, when our daughter passed away that first Christmas, these are the things that we did, and this would be our advice to give to family and friends who are having a hard time navigating. Our family did this and it was really helpful. Our friends did this and it wasn't very helpful. And these are all things that when you get together with these survivors, our Survivors Connect, when we want to get into our groups, kind of like support groups. I think that's part of the value of that as well. And I think that's another part of what Survivors is trying to do, is help to educate or help or inform or give people ideas on tools on how to navigate the holidays, birthdays, whether it's from your own loss or for somebody, a loved one, a friend, a friend that has experienced loss.
So for me, just creating the Live Like Lily Foundation after Lily passed away, we knew that we just felt very strongly. She'd written an essay that was ways to, be kind and do good to everyone around you, little ways to do that. And so we just felt like that was her last letter to us and what she wanted us to do, because we felt really pushed to do something. And just the absolute, you're at your lowest when you lose, a daughter or whoever. But to do these service projects that we've done in the community, like dance scholarships to girls at Girls Inc., to Prima, being at those presentations are absolutely amazing. Like, I'm at the highest of highs, higher than I'd ever, been before. And every year that we do it, I get to experience it again. So it's an absolute gift to be able to continue her legacy and her name on with these, serving other people. Because to see the joy on these girls' faces it brings me to tears. They're in tears, I'm in tears, and it's amazing. So that's what service has really done for me, to be able to see the happiness of others, and then it fills me.
Not all death is the same. Every death is different. And there's not a death that is the same. Some are similar, but every death is different. But service is universal. Peace that comes from service is universal. And so it's interesting that even though we might not all understand exactly the circumstances or be able to fully appreciate where everybody's coming from, when you join together in service, you are completely unified because you're there for the same purpose and you find the same healing through that service. And it comes in the way that's just right for you. And that's one of the things that I think to families, we invite them to do what feels like what they think would be good for them. They're not supposed to do what Stacy and Josh or what Austin and Elizabeth. You find the way that you feel would be honor your loved one the best. Just as simple as, I'm going to smile to somebody every day. Maybe that's your way of thinking about your loved one every day, is I'm going to smile at someone every day. And when I do smile, I'm going to think of my loved one. Or I'm going to open up the door for every person that I can. Or I'm going to buy somebody, when I go and get me a treat, I'm going to buy somebody else's treat every time. And that's a little habit that I've done for our family. And every time I do, it's like magic. And you get the chance to share your story. Some people ask why, or some people, and you get to share, and then they're touched. One of our mottos is see good, do good, and share good. And it's a cyclical thing. When you see good, you want to do good. And then when you do good, you want to do more good, and you want to share that good with others. And when you share good, it just changes your mind, and you want to be in that circle all the time. So those are unifying things, and they kind of bring all of the differences that we can't accommodate for together and bring unity through that common core of service.
You said something about feeling joy, and I remember about a month after my daughter passed away, some friends decided to take me on a trip to go to watch a football game, which is something I really enjoy. And I remember sitting there, and as I was just kind of watching other people take enjoyment in the football game, and I had this concern that I would never feel joy the way that I had once felt it in my life after losing my daughter. And something occurred to me that when we experience a certain level of grief that we have never experienced before, it only increases the capability or the ability that we have to feel joy. I guess I would compare it, if I could use an analogy, imagine a beautifully paved road. And as we experience in the Midwest, when the snow and ice come, cracks form inside. And then as the snow thaws, you see these cracks in the summer and in the spring. But what somebody shared with me one time is that, even though we're broken, and there's cracks now in our heart as we experience grief, there's also a light that is now able to be admitted into those areas that was not there before. So it's always been kind of a neat analogy for me. And like I said, I don't know. It's just something that came into my head when you asked that question. As I asked myself that too. Will I ever know the kind of joy that I knew, before my grief? And the answer is yes. It might even be more. I think because of my grief, I feel like my capacity for joy has increased, and that's only perpetuated by service and by getting outside of myself. And I think, as we've mentioned, that really keeps our daughter alive in my heart, because I know that joy that I'm experiencing is a result of the service I'm doing in her memory.
After my daughter passed away, I still had this need inside to want to nurture her and to want to make her happy and to want to put a smile on her face wherever she is. And I felt like I can't give her anything physical for her birthday or for Christmas. I can't, and that's part of the grief, is that loss. However, I realized, on those special days, on her birthday, I can put a smile on her face. And I feel like the best way that I can do that is for her to look down on us as we're serving others and bringing light into the community. And so that is something that brings me so much joy now, to be able to know that wherever she is, she's smiling on us, knowing that she sees our pain and our grief, but she sees how we still love her, and we show that love through serving others, and that brings me joy.
See, I think the concept and the idea, I've never run into anybody that didn't love and support it. I think right now, obviously, we're kind of in that infant stage, and we're really growing as a group. And as the word spreads, as people, start to hear about it, I feel like one of the things that it does, and I'm speaking, I guess, from my own grief, is, I remember we went for the first time to a support group, and it was a room full of strangers, and there was this ability to connect with strangers even more than my own family, because they were somebody that had gone through something that I had gone through. And it was really interesting as we went to these support groups. And I think one of the things we're trying to recreate with survivors is a really similar experience where people can feel like they can connect. There's something about having that mutual, and I can say, when we've met Josh and Stacy and Josh and Shannon, it was like an instant friendship and connection because of what we'd gone through. And I think grief is the price that we pay for love, needing to love somebody. But I definitely feel like service is what we do to demonstrate the love that we have, and that's how we keep our children's memories alive. And I'll just say it again. We all will experience grief at in some point, in some way in our lives. And heaven forbid anyone have to lose a child, have to bury a child. But there is a lot of peace in knowing that there are others that have gone through that shared experience. And again, I think with survivors, I think our mission that we all came to agree on was that service was the key to that peace, to that healing that we all look for, right? I think oftentimes the failure in going through grief is when we turn inward and we kind of go to a dark place. And I know it's easy to do, but what we found as we got outside ourselves, our daughter's birthday, which was only a few months after she passed, we decided, we're not going to sit at home and cry and which would have been really easy to do. I think we wanted to do, But we just said, you know what, let's go do service in her name. You know, and take kits to homeless people, to clean up in our neighborhood, in our area. We picked up trash around the parking lot at our church, and there's just we found so much peace. And so then when we ran into these guys, it was an immediate. It just all kind of clicked and it came together.
Frankly, the potential for survivors' growth is overwhelming because it is ubiquitous. Everybody's going to have loss, as Austin said. But one of the things that's become clear to me is that very few of us know how to navigate that loss healthily. I don't know why our culture's done such a poor job with doing that. We kind of try and just shut it away and almost pretend like that person didn't exist because it hurts when we think about them. So one of the messages of survivors is they still live. And in fact, they live, the more you serve, the more they live. And so the more we serve, the closer we get to feel to them. And that's that peace connection. And we've found that service is a universal healing balm. It's not unique. And that service is the action word of love. And that's the essence of communities. When communities serve together, they're strong and they bind together and they work and they're good. And so we're trying to create survivors communities across the globe and change that culture, or at least enhance that culture of when death happens and when grief comes, we have the ability to make good of that and to keep them alive through our daily living in those acts. So one of the things that I do to keep Lily alive in my life is I've found tremendous satisfaction in exercising. Lily encouraged me after she died. I felt her encouraging me to run a marathon, which I was registered for when she died, and I didn't do it. It was just a few weeks after, and I didn't do it. And she compelled me to do it, and when I did that run, I eventually trained and did that race, it was euphoric. And running has become something that I can, every time I go out for a run, I dedicate that time to think about her, or to think about things that I can do, or to kind of consecrate that time almost to something beyond just myself. And so I move in memory is kind of what we call it. And so this next year, every day I'm finding people who have passed away, and the day that they passed, I'm thinking and remembering them that day, every day through a year, a unique person or persons, and then inviting those families of those individuals to partner with me that day and to do something cool for them. They can move if they want to move, they can serve if they want to serve, eat blueberry pie if that's what their grandma's favorite thing to do was, share stories with their children about the person that passed away, whatever it is that they want to remember that person. But every day to have somebody, some family somewhere, intentionally thinking about their loved one and making it a good day, and not just having it be a dark day, which naturally and the easiest thing would be. One of Survivor's messages also is that we want to share this message. So we have the third part of what we do is we want to speak to organizations, to communities, to schools. We've lost our child. And one of the things that we've felt deeply is that many children are being lost through social media and networks of screen addiction. So part of our message is to those who are still living, specifically children, to try and empower you through service to get them off of their cell phones as much, or to at least use their social media for doing good. And that's one of the ways that we feel like we can serve in honor of Lily and empower others to serve their lost ones is through that. So we have what we call Survivors Speak as a platform to go out and share this message with anybody who would let us come and want to learn more about that and empower communities through that principle.
You know, Survivors Speaks is, you know, as a former teacher and football coach, it just kind of came naturally to work with youth. You know, because they do experience loss, and they live in a social media era. And the irony of that is that these kids feel like they're connecting with each other. In reality, they're not. And you'd think, you know, connections make us studies have proven that, connecting with others, like organically connecting with another person, brings us happiness. We live in a time where we're more medicated, more depressed, more anxious than any generation of humans has ever been. And for me, that is these kids are going through, they experience loss in a different way than we do. Teen suicide is through the roof. It's at an all-time high, and anxiety and depression and things that they're going through. And social media really kind of exacerbates that. It just makes it worse. And so part of our message is to try to, I would say, save those kids, or to, help them to look up from their phones, to learn how to make organic connections with each other. And so that's been a big part of what I've been able to contribute to the group. Is just, we have a program that we're working on that we take to the schools, and it's got a curriculum with it, so that the kids, and it culminates in a service project that the kids can do at the high school. So they're learning to serve, which again, it all ties back into how service is a great way to deal with grief. It's a great way to connect with others. It's a great way to demonstrate love for another person, to get outside of yourself. All of these things, I think, kind of counteract what the social media is kind of robbing these kids of, kind of this connection crisis that they're experiencing. And so, it's one of those things where I'm, as a parent, have lost a child, and I don't want any parent to experience that, and I think we see a lot of it, like I said, with the increase of teen suicide. And, so our message, we kind of have a teen survivors leg of the survivors group, and that's, like Josh said, he said it beautifully. It's really geared towards, connecting with those kids, and getting our message out to the younger generation, as well as organizations, as adults, church groups, anybody and everybody, I think, can benefit from that message. Well, and I think, in some ways it's called like social emotional learning, or service learning. There's different names for it, but you're right. It's not something that kids get taught. We teach them math, we teach them science, we teach them history, and all these other things that are great, that are important. But I think if you could turn back the clock, a young person that takes their life, commits suicide, I don't think they would tell you, if I just had more math, then I wouldn't have made this decision. I think it's, if I felt like I was more connected to people, that would have saved my life. And I guess that's, for me, that's my goal. And if I save one child, or we save, a single child, in a lot of ways we're feeling we're doing good.